My own sister texted me, "Don't come to mom's retirement party. She doesn't want you there." No call. No explanation. Just one cold sentence dropped into my night like I didn't exist. What hurt more than the words themselves was what came next. My dad liked the message. That tiny digital thumbs up felt heavier than a slap. It told me everything I needed to know without saying anything at all. So I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't explain myself like I'd done my entire life. I typed one word, "Cool." And then quietly I stopped paying for the venue. 7 days later, the celebration they planned without me began to fall apart. My phone lit up for hours, names stacking on the screen, messages piling on top of one another. And trust me, that was only the first consequence. Before I tell you how this ended, pause for a moment. If you've ever been erased by your own family, pushed aside, ignored, treated like you were only valuable when you were useful, I want you to know you're not alone. My name is Olivia. I was 34 years old when I finally understood how replaceable I was to the people who raised me. From the outside, my family looked perfectly normal. The kind neighbors smiled at. The kind that posted cheerful photos every holiday. Matching outfits, forced laughter, captions about gratitude and love. If you walked into my parents' house, you'd see framed memories lining the hallway. Birthdays, graduations, vacations frozen in time. Everything looked effortless. What you wouldn't see was how those moments were built, or who carried them. That was usually me. I worked a stable job that demanded organization, patience, and constant problem solving. Somewhere along the way, those skills quietly spilled over into my family life. I became the planner, the fixer, the one who booked reservations, paid deposits, smoothed tensions, and made sure things didn't fall apart. I never announced it. I never kept score. I just did it because someone had to. My mother liked things done properly. My father liked things peaceful. And my younger sister? She liked being celebrated. She was the loud one. The charming one. The one whose mistakes were always softened and explained away. Stress, passion, bad timing, someone else's fault. Growing up, if something broke and I was nearby, I was asked why I wasn't more careful. If she broke it, we laughed and moved on. That dynamic never changed. We just grew better dressed. When my mom announced she was retiring, everyone talked about how special it was. Decades of work, a major milestone, a moment she deserved to enjoy. My sister talked about how big the party should be. My dad talked about keeping things simple. And somehow, without a meeting, without discussion, the responsibility landed in my lap. I didn't mind at first. I found a venue that felt warm, not flashy. I coordinated catering with food my mom actually liked, not just what looked good in photos. I handled payments quietly the way I always did. Bills were just numbers to me, problems with solutions. I didn't expect praise. I didn't expect gratitude. What I did expect was to be there. While planning, I kept thinking about a photo from my childhood. It was old, slightly faded. My mom and I in the kitchen. She was laughing mid-spin, apron crooked. I was holding onto her hands, off balance, smiling like nothing in the world could go wrong. I didn't realize how much I'd been holding on to that image, or how much I wanted this party to be a bridge back to that version of us. Then came the text. The message arrived late, the kind of hour where nothing good ever shows up. I was at home, shoes kicked off by the door, one lamp glowing in the corner of the room. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. I didn't rush to check it. Most nights it was just noise. Then I saw my sister's name. "Don't come to mom's retirement party. She doesn't want you there." I stared at the screen longer than I cared to admit, searching for context that wasn't there. A joke. A misunderstanding. Anything. Then the second line appeared. Dad liked the message. That's when something cracked. Not shattered, cracked. Because when someone tells you not to come to a celebration you built, it forces a question you've been avoiding your entire life. Was I family, or was I just useful? That question followed me long after I set my phone down, and straight into everything that came next. After I sent that single word, cool, I waited. Not dramatically. Not with tears or panic. Just a quiet, unreasonable hope that someone would realize how wrong this was and reach out. A call. An apology. Even an awkward explanation would have been enough. None came. The next morning passed in silence. So did the afternoon. Then the evening. My phone stayed still except for work notifications and group chats I'd long stopped paying attention to. The quiet stretched into the next day, And that silence answered more questions than any argument ever could. They weren't confused. They weren't conflicted. They were simply assuming I'd fall back into place. By the third day, messages started trickling in. Not concern, not accountability, but irritation. My sister accused me of being dramatic. My mom asked why things weren't moving forward with the party. No one asked how I was. No one acknowledged what had been said to me. They spoke like the problem wasn't the cruelty of excluding me, it was that I'd stopped fixing things. That's when the shift happened. Not loud. Not explosive. Just a quiet realization settling into my chest like a weight finally dropping. If I stepped back into the role they'd assigned me, this cycle would never end. There would always be another event, another bill, another line crossed, all explained away as family. So I didn't rush to close the gap. I let it stay open. Because something in me knew this wasn't the worst thing they were capable of doing. The day of the party arrived without ceremony. I woke up early out of habit, my body still wired to solve problems that were no longer mine. For a moment, I reached for my phone to check schedules, confirm details, fix last-minute issues. Then I stopped. There was nothing left for me to manage. Instead of driving toward my parents' house, I went in the opposite direction. I spent the morning in a quiet corner of the city, somewhere neutral where no one knew my family name or expected anything from me. The air felt lighter there, like I was borrowing a version of life that didn't demand I hold everything together. I kept my phone face down on the table beside me. I didn't need to look to know what was happening. I could picture it clearly. Guests arriving confused. My sister scrambling. My mom smiling too hard, pretending this was exactly how she wanted it. The kind of chaos that only appears when the person who quietly holds everything together steps away. Mid-afternoon, a message finally came through. It was from a cousin. No commentary. Just a photo. The celebration had been moved to the garage. Folding chairs sat unevenly across the concrete floor. A cheap banner drooped against the wall, letters curling at the edges like they'd given up halfway through. Half the guests I'd personally followed up with weren't there, probably assumed the entire thing had been cancelled. In the center of the photo, my sister stood holding a store-bought cake like proof she'd tried. Her expression wasn't proud. It was tight, controlled, calculating. I turned my phone off. That evening the calls started. My sister first, her voice sharp, accusing me of ruining everything. My mom followed, demanding an explanation as if confusion had suddenly become her language. Even my dad tried once, leaving a voicemail filled with pauses and half-sentences, saying a lot without actually saying anything at all. No one asked why I was hurt. They only wanted to know why things weren't working. A few days later, my sister texted like nothing had happened. There was a family dinner planned. I should stop acting childish. I should come back and fix things. I didn't reply. Not long after, I had a work trip scheduled, just a few days out of town. Against my better judgment, I reached out to my parents and asked if they could watch my dog while I was gone. He loved their yard. I told myself it was temporary. Controlled. Safe. When I returned, something felt wrong immediately. No barking. No nails clicking on the floor. No familiar weight pressing against my legs. My mom opened the door alone. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "He's gone," she said. For a moment I thought she meant he'd run away. That there'd been an accident. My chest tightened. Then she added casually, "Your sister took care of it." The words didn't land right. "Took care of it?" I asked. "How?" She sighed, already irritated. She found him a new home. Someone who needed him more. That was the moment everything shifted. This wasn't about a party anymore. This wasn't about feelings or misunderstandings. They hadn't just erased me. They'd crossed a line they couldn't walk back. And for the first time, I wasn't thinking about how to keep the peace. I was thinking about how to protect myself. I didn't raise my voice when my mom said it. She found him a new home. The sentence floated between us like it was normal, like it didn't rearrange something fundamental inside my chest. I stood there for a moment, letting the meaning settle, feeling something heavier than shock take hold. I asked one question. My voice sounded unfamiliar to my own ears. Too steady. "Did you give her permission?" My mom crossed her arms, already defensive. "You were away. She handled it. We didn't think you'd mind once you calmed down." Once I calmed down. That phrase had followed me my entire life. It always appeared right after someone hurt me, as if my reaction was the real problem, not the act itself. I walked past her into the house slowly. Deliberately. I wasn't there to argue. I needed to understand exactly how far they'd gone. My sister's things were everywhere. Fused by the door. A jacket thrown over a chair. Proof she moved through this house with total ownership like it belonged to her, and I was just a guest who'd overstayed. I found my dad in the backyard trimming hedges, headphones on, pretending the world couldn't reach him if he stayed busy enough. I took them off. "Did you know?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. He stared at the grass like the right response might grow out of it. "She said it was temporary," he muttered finally. "That it would be better for everyone. Everyone except me." I left without another word. In my car I sat longer than necessary, hands gripping the steering wheel, breathing through something that felt like grief tangled with rage. But underneath it all was clarity, sharp and unforgiving. They hadn't just hurt me emotionally. They had taken something that was mine. Wiggly. And they had done it because they were certain I wouldn't fight back. They were wrong. That night I didn't call my sister. I didn't show up at her place. I didn't send long messages demanding explanations. Instead I gathered proof. Adoption paperwork. Vet records. Registration information. Receipts for food, training and medical care. Everything with my name on it. Everything that showed I wasn't just emotionally attached. I was the owner. The next morning I made one call. Not to family. To someone whose job wasn't to keep the peace, but to enforce the rules everyone else assumed didn't apply inside a family. I explained the situation calmly. No dramatics. Just facts. My dog was sold without my consent while I was out of town. There was a pause on the line. Then a simple response. "That's not a family issue," the voice said. "That's a legal one." Hearing that felt like oxygen. By the afternoon things moved quickly. When officers arrived at my parents' house, my mom looked genuinely shocked, like she couldn't believe I'd involved outsiders. My dad hovered behind her, silent as ever. My sister wasn't there yet. They started explaining before anyone asked. "She's overreacting. It was a misunderstanding. We were just trying to help." The officers listened politely. Then one of them turned to me. I handed over the documents one by one. They read carefully, nodded, asked clarifying questions. Professional. Detached. Exactly what I needed. "Who sold the dog?" one officer asked. My mom hesitated. That pause alone was an answer. "My daughter," she said finally. "The younger one." "And where is she now?" "She's on her way." When my sister pulled into the driveway she stepped out smiling. That same confident, charming smile she'd used her entire life to soften consequences. Then she saw the uniforms. Her smile faltered. "What's going on?" she asked, eyes darting between us. One of the officers spoke calmly. "Did you sell a dog that doesn't belong to you?" She scoffed. "I rehomed him. It was the right thing to do." "Did you have permission from the owner?" She opened her mouth, closed it, rolled her eyes. "She's being dramatic," she said. I knew she'd get over it. That was the moment. Not when the paperwork came out. Not when the officer explained the law. But when my sister realized her usual confidence wasn't working. They placed her in handcuffs. My mom screamed. My dad shouted that this was unnecessary, that we could talk about it, that this was family. The officer didn't even look at them. "Family doesn't give you the right to sell someone else's property," he said. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel revenge. I felt still. At the station everything became quieter, procedural, stripped of emotion. I sat in a plastic chair, hands folded, answering questions I'd already prepared myself for. They told me how much my sister sold him for. A small amount. Like he was nothing more than an object to move for convenience. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I asked for the night. That evening my phone filled with messages I didn't read. Voicemails I didn't open. I went home to an apartment that felt painfully empty without the familiar sound of paws on the floor. I slept badly. The next morning the call came. They'd found him. When I walked into the station he recognized me instantly. He ran toward me so hard his whole body shook, nails scraping against the floor as if he was afraid I might disappear again. I dropped to my knees and wrapped my arms around him, breathing in that familiar scent, grounding myself in something real. In that moment, everything I'd been holding back finally loosened. I pressed charges. That part surprised my parents the most. They thought getting him back would be enough. That I'd take the win, smooth things over and return to my old role. The fixer, the peacekeeper, the one who made everyone comfortable at her own expense. But this wasn't about punishment. It was about a line. My sister paid restitution through legal channels. There were no apologies, just bitterness, just blame. She never once said she was sorry. She said I'd embarrassed her. That I'd ruined the family's reputation. That I'd gone too far. That night my mom left a voicemail. She started calm. Then she got angry. Then her voice cracked with desperation. She said if I didn't drop everything, I was choosing to walk away from the family. I deleted it. For the first time, that wasn't a threat. It was confirmation. They had built a family that only functioned if I stayed silent. And I was done being quiet. The house felt different after that. Quieter but not empty. He slept pressed against my leg the first night back, like he needed to make sure I was real. I didn't move until morning. I let the stillness settle into my bones, replacing the tension I'd carried for years without even realizing it. The legal side wrapped up cleanly. Restitution went through the proper channels. No dramatic courtroom scenes. No heartfelt conversations waiting at the end. Just distance. Unmistakable. I changed the locks. Updated my emergency contacts. Removed names that had been there by default, not by trust. It felt strange how simple it was, how long I'd delayed something so necessary. My parents didn't come by. My sister didn't reach out. And this silence felt different. It wasn't punishment. It was peace. I kept working. I cooked dinners I actually enjoyed instead of rushing through meals. I took longer walks. I stopped bracing myself for the next demand, the next emergency, the next expectation disguised as love. Some nights I thought about the party. About the message. About how easily they erased me. And then I'd look down and feel the warm weight at my side, steady and real, and remember exactly why I stopped letting them. For a long time I believed love meant endurance. That being family meant absorbing whatever pain came your way and calling it loyalty. Now I know better. If being hurt is the price of belonging, it isn't love. It's control. Choosing yourself doesn't make you cruel. It makes you honest. If this story feels familiar, if you've ever been made to feel invisible by the people who were supposed to protect you, you're not alone. Boundaries don't destroy families. They reveal which ones were built on respect and which ones were built on silence. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It just stays.